Hello, NCLEX takers. Welcome to Nest Inspire. RN Vivi here, and I'm just here this morning to have a little chat to you. And I hope I will be able to encourage someone out there who's preparing to do the NCLEX RN exams. So this morning, I would like to share with you how I started with my NCLEX RN revision and how I basically took off with my revision as an NCLEX RN exam taker. So with my NCLEX RN exams, I basically started from Google. That's where everything started. And that's where basically I start, whatever I want to know, I will just go on Google and Google them up. And I went on Google to Google up NCLEX RN exams practical questions. So because I just didn't know where to start off because I don't know anyone who's already set for the NCLEX RN exams, and I don't know where else to look. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go on Google. I'll Google it up, and lo and behold, Google has everything. So there were some websites that actually had free practical questions. So I looked up the practical questions, and I did, I actually had a goal of doing at least 20 practical questions. Sometimes I would, when I'm a little bit more ambitious, I would do more than that. But I usually just aim between 10 and 20 per day with free practical questions on Google, because I just wanted to gauge what the questions are like, the complexity of the questions, the strategies of the questions, and I just wanted to gauge how I can, strategize in answering the questions, and basically what NCLEX is all about. That's really what the aim was, to just know what NCLEX is all about. So after doing hundreds and hundreds of questions, I finally gauged two very important things. One, NCLEX is after two things from NCLEX takers. One, they want to know if you're a safe nurse, and I think that's one of the most important, if not the most important things as a registered nurse. You really have to be a safe nurse. You need to be able to prioritize safety every time when you are at work. And the second thing is they want to know if you're a critical thinker. They're trying to test your skill as a critical thinker. And I think that's also very important in supporting your safety. If you're a safe nurse, or your safety towards how safe you are towards the people that you look after, your clients or your patients. After I gauge those two things, and I've sussed out what NCLEX is all about, I googled up the websites where I can purchase question banks from. So there are some websites that offer question banks of between 3,000 to 5,000 questions, NCLEX RN questions, and some of them are like 90 Australian dollars. Some of them are in US dollars for about 3 months. That's if you have 3 months to prepare, and you can always purchase longer than that. Or even if you're not planning to sit for your NCLEX RN exams and you just want to play around with the questions, have a feel of what NCLEX is about, you can go ahead and purchase those questions, and just to have a feel of what it's like to be in that NCLEX RN exam world. So after I purchased the question bank from the particular website that I purchased it from, I studied for 3 months. And I also went ahead and I put together plans that I want to achieve daily and plans that I want to achieve monthly. So the plan that I wanted to achieve daily was I wanted to study between 50 to 75 practical questions in a day. So, as when I wake up in the morning, how many questions I want to do, and before I go to work, how many questions I want to do, and when I'm having my break at work, how many questions I want to do. All of those little questions every now and then, every now and again, here and there, they all add up to 50 in a day, or more than that. And apart from that, trying to cover my 50, it's not just trying to cover the 50. It's really important for us to be able to understand the rationale of each and every question. And sometimes when you have repeated really complicated questions, you're going to just sit back a bit and just try and take in the rationale, and just try and not really understand what the rationale is telling you or is trying to teach you about that particular question, because the goal is for you to learn. The goal is for you to have things register in your memory, because if it doesn't register, then you really don't understand it, and it's quite hard for you to be able to then proceed on and try and do it in the actual RN exam, in the actual NCLEX RN exam, because you really don't understand. So it's really important that you understand the rationales of the practical questions that you do. And the other thing that I did was, right from the beginning, before as I was doing the practical questions, I also wrote down the different systems of the body, and the different medications for each system. You have your cardiovascular problems and you have the cardiovascular medications. You have your respiratory problems and the respiratory medications. You have your neurological problems and the neurological medications, and so on and so forth, with the how many different systems that we have in the body. So I had to study each and every system in the body so that I am able to really understand what I was trying to study. And altogether, there were about 15 topics altogether that I had to really study and understand in order for me to be ready to execute that NCLEX RN exams. NCLEX RN exams, like what we've mentioned in so many reels, you also hear from other people who've done the NCLEX RN exams. It's quite hard. It's a tough exam. It's really a tough exam, but it's completely doable. It's possible to pass NCLEX RN exams. I mean, I've passed it. There are thousands of other nurses that have passed it, and I want to encourage you that you can pass it too. And that's why I want to share my story on how I started off with my NCLEX RN exams journey, so that from my story you can then tailor your own plans and your goals so that you are able to also execute the NCLEX RN exams. And so that was basically how I started off. I purchased question banks, which had between 3,000 to 5,000 practical questions and NCLEX RN exams practical questions. So between the 3,000 and the 5,000, I think when I studied for my NCLEX RN exams, this is not exaggerating, I'm going to tell the truth here, I did more than the ones that I'm able to count, because I also purchased books. The ones that I'm able to count, I think I completed more than 3,000 NCLEX RN exam practical questions. And the NCLEX RN exams practical questions, they are mostly emergency scenarios and critical care unit scenarios. And that's basically how I started off. I did those question banks, and I studied the rationals, and then I wrote down the different systems of the body and the different medications, the side effects, the adverse effects. We really need to know all of those. And I studied those, and I started from the cardiovascular system. That's where I started from. I wanted to really get to a good level of knowledge and understanding about the cardiovascular system and the cardiovascular medications, plus the respiratory systems and the respiratory medications, study their adverse effects, side effects, and all those things. And once I was really satisfied and I was contented with my level of knowledge about those two systems and their medications, I just breezed through the rest of the systems and their medications. And the fact that I was also doing my degree at the same time, One of my core units was neurobiology. And so, neurobiology it deals with the nerves, the nervous system, part of the vascular system, and medications of the neurological problems and their medications and things like that. So that really helped me too in that regard, in brushing through the neurological issues and the medications, apart from the two that I really tried to prioritize when I studied. So that's actually one of my tips that I want to share today is try and really get to a good level, to a good place with your cardiovascular system, the cardiovascular problems and their medications, and your respiratory problems and their medications. And try and have a goal of how many practical questions you want to do in a day, whether it's 10, whether it's 20, whether it's, you don't have to just tick off, okay, I've done 10 questions today. You really have to understand the rationales of the answers to every question that you do. Unless and until, like what I mentioned, unless and until you've understood the rationale behind the answer, because it's a multiple choice question. The rationale behind the answer was A and not B, C, D. That's when you really know. You really do understand what it's talking about, what it wants you to know, how it wants you to practice when you actually go out there to the actual practical area in your clinical setting to practice as a nurse, so you are safe, so you're able to critically think about the decisions that you do as a registered nurse. And so that's what I aim to share with you this morning about how I started off with my NCLEX RN exams journey. Started from Google. I practiced a few free practical questions on some of the websites on Google. And then I purchased question banks, which was about 3,000 to 5,000. And I tried to complete at least 50 practical questions per day and understand the rationales of each practical question. And sometimes I didn't even do 50. Sometimes I went as far as 10 questions. Sometimes I went as far as 9-8 questions per day. It depend on the mood I was in, depend on my level of fatigue, it depend on whether I really wanted to. Sometimes I just didn't want to study. So, and that meant that I had to catch up on the days when I'm, really 100% in there. And so I had that goal of how many questions I want to achieve in a day and the different systems and the different medications. And I really try to be at a good place, at a place where I'm really contented with my cardiovascular system and my cardiovascular medications and the respiratory systems and the respiratory medications. I hope from those, from my plan and my goals, you can then tailor your own plan and your goals, and you can, go from there with your NCLEX RN exams. And let me just tell you this. If you're a nurse who is currently working in a clinical setting, you're currently practicing as a registered nurse, nothing is impossible. I did my NCLEX RN exams when I was not working as a registered nurse. So it was, that was an odd that was against me, that, I wasn't in a clinical setting. So when it's talking about, PICC lines, when it was talking about wound vac, when it was talking about the standard heparin therapy, I was a little bit, it was hard for me to understand, but it really takes a lot of self-control as well, for you were able to control the outside distractions, be able to control what you can control, and really focus on your NCLEX RN exam so that you can achieve that goal. So if you're currently working as a registered nurse, I want to tell you, you are at a better place, at least than me, where I was when I when I started my NCLEX RN exams. So you're already up there from me when you were starting with your NCLEX RN exams revision. I was down here because I wasn't working. I wasn't in the actual clinical setting. I wasn't working as a registered nurse at the time. I had resigned, and I was in the process of transitioning. And so yeah, if I was able to work myself through that odd and be able to pass my NCLEX RN exams, I want to encourage you. I want to tell you that it's completely doable. It's hard, it's tough, it's going to require a lot from you, but it takes a lot of resilience. It takes a lot of self-discipline, a lot of self-control, and a lot of focus, and you can completely achieve your goal of passing your NCLEX RN exams. I hope I've encouraged you. Thank you for tuning in to Nurse Inspire. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.